my name is Marjorie. Welcome back on my channel. I haven't filmed anything in quite a while. I thought summer vacation would be a good creative pool to create videos, but turned out it wasn't. I filmed the most incredible video this summer where I showed you guys a Facebook marketplace find, which was a bundle of 200 vintage patterns, and I went through all of it on camera, went to edit the footage and realized I had pressed one wrong setting, which made the whole video in slow motion without sound. And between the time where I had filmed the video and the time where I went to edit it, I had already stored the patterns that I kept and gave away the patterns that I didn't keep, so that never saw the light of day, and I got kind of discouraged, and I decided to wait for inspiration to maybe hit or come back, and it did today. And I'm really excited because I want to talk about my fall curriculum. If you're on TikTok, you've probably seen the whole fall curriculum personal learning trend. Basically just a way to learn outside of school, and that's something that's always been interesting to me. I graduated college, I think it's 10 or 11 years ago, so it's been a little while. And for the past 5 years, I've been taking 1 or 2 university classes a year, working very slowly towards a certificate in ethnology, which is basically the same thing as anthropology, but more on a smaller scale, I guess you could say. Last fall, I started a class on costumes, and it was really interesting. I was supposed to write a paper on house dresses, because there was this general theme where we had to talk about something that had to do with COVID and the whole pandemic and clothes and how it changed. But I wanted to write about house dresses and what was historically a house dress and how it sort of came back during COVID with all the loungewear and where it was today fashion wise. But then my dad got sick. I got to spend about a month and a half outside of my house in an Airbnb in another town to be with him and with my stepmom, and I was working from there, but I didn't have any mental space for a class. Fortunately, my dad is all well now, but I gave up on that class, and here we are about a year later. And I'm telling you guys all of this because one of the course that I decided to work on in this personal curriculum kind of has to do with that. It's all about the history of women's work, especially craft, everything that has to do with crafts, so needlework, weaving, knitting, sewing. And the way I'm gonna learn about that is obviously through books. I might listen to a documentary or a podcast here and there. It's not all structured yet. Structure will come later in the video because I want to show you this new baby. But first of all, I wanted to show you guys the books that I chose for this curriculum. I already started the first one. It's called Women's Work, The First 2,000 Years by Elizabeth Wayland Barber. I don't know if it's gonna focus, but she's an anthropologist, and she always worked on the very early history of textiles. But in this book, she kind of centers her studies especially around women's work. I'm on chapter 2, so I'm really not that far in, and so far it's really interesting. I thought that this book was the perfect way to start because it's kind of a broad history of textile. It was very important to me for it to be centered around women's work. I think they're all pretty much centered around women's work. I mean, it's not that hard because it's always been in the women's field. I think it's still an interesting lens to see all of this through. And like I said, I've read like the how do you call that? The forward and the introduction and the first chapter. But already I get that little, you know, like butterfly-ish feeling when you read something that you like and when you're engrossed in it and when you feel like you're actively learning. And I think that's what this personal curriculum thing is all about. So that's the first book. I think the second one will be Threads of Life by Threads of Life, A History of the World Through the Eye of a Needle by Clare. There's no I. Do we say Clare? Clare Hunter. It's a bit of history and a bit of memoir about sewing through the ages. So you can already see kind of the thread of my studies coming to life in here. It's very much about history of craft, like I said. So I'm really excited to dig into this one, and I like that there's also a bit of a like memoir and personal stories in this one, because that's always fun and it always makes me a bit more engaged than if it was only a history book. And in very similar vein, I have The Fabric of Civilization, How Textiles Made the World by Virginia Postrel. So this is another one that I think is going to be a little bit more history focused and a little bit more maybe academic than this one, which is why I'm kind of interweaving one more history book, one more personal narrative, and then history, personal history, so that my brain gets a little bit of a break. So this one is a bit more about the history of fabric and textile. And it says that she synthesizes groundbreaking research from archaeology, economics, and science to reveal a surprising history. And then for my 3 other books, so I think this one we could say is the like before midterms, if we're talking in a kind of academic setting. So first part of the trimester is history focused. And then the second one is a bit more current. So there's this one called The Golden Fleece by Esther Rutter, A Journey Through Britain's Knitted History. So this one is more about yarn. And in the book, the writer travels the length of the British Islands to tell the story of wool's long history and the influence on our landscape and culture. So it's a very British-centered book around wool, and I think that's going to be an interesting perspective to have. I wanted to find a little bit more books about knitting. I did not find a lot of them, but I also have a paper that I found about the history of knitting in Scandinavia and why it's so popular. And it's funny because I found this article maybe in the spring when I was watching a bunch of knitting videos, and a lot of them were talking about like Finland and Sweden and all the knitting that's going on there and all of that, and it got me intrigued. So I looked up knitting in these parts of the world, and I stumbled upon this paper that I never read, but I think I'm gonna add it to this curriculum. Then I have With Her Own Hands, Women Weaving Their Stories by Nicole Nehrig. So this book is about knitting, quilting, weaving, embroidering, all of that, seen through a woman's perspective, which goes very well with the rest of my curriculum. A friend got me onto this book. She saw it and she sent it to me. She was like, I think you would like this, and I bought it right away. I can't wait to get to this one. I think it's going to be very inspiring. And before I get to the last book, I think I did not really talk to you guys about where this interest came from. I talked about the other classes that I took, but I would say that for the last, I don't know, 2 years, I've been getting more and more interested into fiber arts. I started with sewing 2 years ago, then knitting this year, and when I get interested in something, I go all in. And to me, going all in also means understanding not only the craft itself, but also the history of it, the social, political climate around it, and how it got to where it is today. So that's why it felt like the perfect subject to study. The last one I think will kind of wrap the whole thing up. It's called Worn, A People History of Clothing by Sofi Thanhauser. And I think this one will wrap it up because all of the other books are about these crafts that in the majority of the time will end up being a piece of clothing. So to read a book that is specifically about clothing felt like the best way to close this course. It's also a book about, of course, fabric. It says that it's in this panoramic social history, Sofi Thanhauser brilliantly tells 5 stories: linen, cotton, silk, synthetic, and wool, about the clothes we wear and where they come from. So I think it's very fitting. I think it's going to talk a little bit more about the industrial side of clothing and a little less about the craft, which is also very fitting, because if I want to have a clear and bigger picture of all of these crafts, I think I also have to learn more about the industrialization of it. So I think that's what this book will be about. So there you have it. What I did not talk about yet is kind of the whole, because when you watch these personal curriculum videos, there's always a paper at the end, or like a research or something like that. And honestly, I don't know if I'm gonna go that route. I think I want it to be more of a reflective thing where I just jolt down notes and synthesize it in my own words. But what I am going to do is go on a little field trip, because why not? There is this wool museum, and I don't know how to say that word in English. Let me translate it. Okay, I found it. I found a website with the translation in English, so I'll be able to tell you what it's called exactly. So there's this place about 40 minutes from where I live it's a wool mill, a heritage museum, and industrial historic site. So basically it's a wool mill, and it got turned into a museum all about the industrialization of wool in Quebec. So I think it's just the perfect field trip to go on. As for jolting down my notes, it's all gonna go into my new Paper Republic journal. Okay, I've, like a lot of people that are spending a lot of time on the internet these days, I've been obsessed with leather journals. I want them all, but they're very expensive. And my birthday was in August, and my dad told me, if you think about something that you would really like, I'm gonna buy it for you. So here we are with a Paper Republic journal that I really wanted. So it's a gift from my dad, and I already customized it with a little stone and a little charm. And I haven't written anything in it yet, but I think I'm gonna start today. I got the writer's kit, so it came in a beautiful wooden box with 2 dotted journals and 2 line journals. So I think I'm gonna use the line journals as a place to take notes on every chapters I read in the book, and then the dotted one will be kind of a commonplace journal about, oh, you know what? I think I just thought of something kind of exciting. I think that's what I'm gonna do. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna use one of the journals to take notes and everything, but then I'm also gonna take either a lined one or a dotted one, sorry, or a plain one to kind of make a scrapbook of everything I've learned. So the idea is very new, very not clear, but I just got it and I'm on camera, so I'm gonna share it. So what I imagine is maybe pictures and kind of mind maps and notes and quotes and all of that really stayed with me while reading these books and while going to the museum, and also while doing my own crafts, because that's also going to be part of it. Doing my own knitting, sewing. I don't know how it's gonna kind of combine with the readings, but I think that's what I also like about this whole personal curriculum thing, is that I can really make it my own. And because I'm not the most structured person out there, I think if I had made myself a very structured plan, it would be a recipe for disaster. Maybe not disaster, but I would set myself up for failure, and I don't want that. So I think leaving a bit of room to kind of adapt throughout the semester is a good way. And I think the scrapbook part of it is kind of a fun and creative way to retain information and also to have kind of a final project at the end. So I think that's what I'm gonna do, and I'm excited about it. I'm excited about the whole thing. I can't wait to learn new stuff and think about all of that in a new lens. So I think I'm gonna kind of structure a little bit my curriculum in my line journal and then keep on reading. It's about an hour later and I'm bringing back the camera because I just made something and I think it's really cute and I wanted to show it because it has to do with the whole curriculum thing. So like I said earlier, I wanted to use my Paper Republic journals to take notes and then maybe make like a sort of scrapbook thing. So I kind of made 2 very cute designs for the journals. So this one here is gonna be the one that I use for note taking, and then this one, which is my favorite, I think it's really cute, is going to be kind of where I put my final project in. So there you have it. Both really cute journals for my curriculum. So thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.